Hey VC, Big Star 1000, Gimme Ten 1976. Thank you for all the great responses for 1975. I really appreciate. I've watched every one of your responses and commented on them. Um, and this is great. VC is rolling along. It's pumping. Um, 1976 is the year of my birth, so it has a special place for me here. But I'm sad to report that 1976 is also perhaps the least inspirational musical year of the 70s. You may disagree with that statement, and you're perfectly allowed to disagree with this. But if you compare it to, well, so far from 70 to 75, I mean, it's produced gold, but 76 is sort of, I think in 76 we're at the crossroads. You've got progressive rock, which is it's sort of descending phase. All the good prog has been made already, and then we're entering sort of the punk and disco phase, and we're sort of like a kind of a musical crossroads where you know you don't quite know what's going to happen, and you've got the first punk bands as we know them appearing, uh, and all that is being fused with, as I said, disco, and later will turn into things like post-punk. But hold your horses, people. We've got 10 great 1976 records. The best 1976 records, in my opinion, I might be wrong, but the best one for me is Bowie's Station to Station, almost with that question. I think it's probably one of the best things Bowie's ever done, full stop. Um, this is a record that followed the Philadelphia infused young Americans, and with this one, it's the Thin White Duke. It's the cocaine. I think for this record, he was on a strict diet of, I think I read, cocaine, red peppers, and milk. It just gives you a bit of an idea. It cracks me up just thinking about it. Obviously, the title track is absolutely mind blowing, and you could see that he was listening to crack rock. He was, Noi, Can, Cluster, Kraftwerk. He was big into those bands, and you can hear that Golden Years, this funky track with the guitar of Carlos Alomar, amazing, and then I mean everything. Wild is the Wind is brilliant. It's just this is a masterpiece. This record, Station to Station. So I was talking about the arrival of punk, and this is a great proto-punk record from 1976, although it was recorded in 1972. And this is the very first Jonathan Richman Modern Lovers record. It's a fabulous endeavor, really. Every song is a cracker on this. Roadrunner, Astral Plane is brilliant. Pablo Picasso was never called an asshole, not in New York. Just the way he rhymes, Pablo Picasso and asshole, it's genius. It's literal genius. My favorite song is She Cracked. I remember when I first heard Roadrunner, probably in the late 90s, it sort of blew me away how clever and so. It's a brilliant album. Brilliant album. It's driving, it's dynamic, it's just. And so, on the same line with punk, you cannot do 76 without mentioning the debut Ramones record. Here is an absolute essential sort of punk rock record, punk record. Four skinny dudes in New York playing CBGBs, and this is a feast of, you know, of wonder. I mean, in 3 chords, 2 minutes song, blitzkrieg pop. The opener is as good as an opener you can get. Beat on the Brat. I think my favorite song is gonna be Judy the Punk, and I do love I Want to Be Your Boyfriend and Let's Dance. Oh, this is a brilliant record. I don't talk about it too much. It's the Ramones. You know the Ramones. They inspired everybody and anybody. All right, I'm going to change gears a little bit. Um, Man, this is a great record. Um, Here is Songs of the Key, in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. In my opinion, this is Stevie's greatest effort in many respects. It is a double album. You know, it's not an easy feat to. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's produced literally 4 top class albums before this one. So we're talking about, you know, Music of Our Minds, Inner Visions, Talking Book, Fulfilling This First Finale, and then he's able to pull something like that out of the hat. It's just. I mean, you can't. It's you can't understand. You can't. It really is a sensational effort. If I'm talking about a song that I love on this, it's Serge. Serge just makes my day any day of the week. It is just brilliant. And in 1976, if there is one soul funk record that you must listen to, it is this one. It is. I mean, I sort of cringe a little bit when I hear "Isn't She Lovely," a little bit, because it's kind of, you know, it's one of the songs that verges on the tacky, but as a double album, brilliant. I mean, all the songs are great. I'm not going to name songs endlessly, but they're all great. Okay, okay. So I'm going to talk about my favorite artist. My favorite artist in 1976 released a great album. Uh, Really great effort. Serge Gainsbourg, La Tête de Chou, is a concept album which is a story. I mean, I'll tell you the story very briefly of a journalist who falls in love with a hairdresser, and he basically ends up, you know, selling his soul for that girl, and she basically dumps him. He gets into debt. He has to sell everything he owns, and then she dumps his ass, and then he kills her with a fire extinguisher. That's the story of the album. It's totally brilliant. Really funky Gainsbourg. Really like dirty, funky music. It's just brilliant. Um, I could talk about Gainsbourg for hours. Just don't listen to me. There are going to be 3 French records in this installment. That was the first one. I'm just warning you. If you don't like French records, you may be disappointed. And there's one Jamaican record. Boy, this is a great record. The Mighty Diamonds with the absolutely essential, yeah, hear me out, absolute essential and stuck in the sleeve. Wow, really stuck in the sleeve. Happened to me last week with Harmonia as well. And yet, you know, the thing is, it deserves to be pulled out. Right Time, which is an original pressing, so was the Gainsbourg, by the way, on Virgin Records. These dudes, I like to call them the Temptations of reggae. vocal harmonies, beautiful songs. Um, I mean, you have to mention reggae in '76. I'll tell you why. Because in 1976, with the birth of punk, and which was going to be followed by bands like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and all those bands in the UK, they're all listening to reggae. Reggae was a huge influence of these on these people, and so they were probably listening to this record, and you should too, because it's fucking brilliant. That's all I'm going to say about it. Right Time, The Mighty Diamonds. Here's another French record. Now, over the 70s, we've been mentioning a lot of progressive electronic records, from Tangerine Dream to Karl Schulze to, all sorts of sort of cosmic German music. But for my money, the best cosmic German record ever made is a French record. I know. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, obviously I'm having a laugh here. I love this record, Oxygen. Everything about this is just, it's pitch perfect. And I know I'm saying this a lot, blah blah blah, but I mean it. This is a record that can be had for nothing. Literally, you can buy this. You can pay a lot of money for a Green Brain record. You can get this for peanuts. Anyway, in Australia here, you can get this for peanuts. Jean-Michel Jarre, son of Maurice Jarre, French composer. If you've seen Lawrence of Arabia, you've heard the music. That's his father, Jean-Michel Maurice Jarre. And this is a monster record. It's got this ambient quality. It just draws you in. And then there's the themes. There's a hit on this. There's actually, as opposed to most electronic record of the period, there's a song that you can recognize in 2 seconds on this. There's like a big... And if you're born in France and you lived in France through the 80s, you've heard Oxygen parts 4 a lot of times. The single. And the theme, and you've heard it, it's a beautiful record. I'm babbling a lot, aren't I? But, why not? You can fast forward. I've got 3 more. The last 2 are kind of, my own take. I want to include a Brazilian record in there, and I want to include this record because this record is so good as well. I mean, it's astonishing how Jorge Ben was able to produce such quality from, records like Forca Bruta to Tábua de Esmeralda to this. It's almost like he was like a hit machine. Africa, Brazil. Starts with one of my favorite songs, Uma Baruma, Ponta de Lança Africano, which is a football song. I think the very first song I ever heard by Jorge Ben, and this got me into Jorge Ben. That was it. I was on a compilation. It's got Taj Mahal, which was famously stolen by Rod Stewart for "Do You Think I'm Sexy," and got sued by Jorge Ben and lost. Rightfully, Jorge Ben was right. Okay, for the last 2, something a little bit different. Here is arguably one of the best Australian records of the 70s. The debut self-titled Cybertron. An album made here in Melbourne, and a classic progressive electronic record led by Steve Maxwell von Brand on the Clear Light of Jupiter record label. I was lucky enough to actually meet the guy who runs the label quite a few times, and he was telling me all sorts of stories about Cybertron. he was actually blown away that anybody was interested in Cybertron. That was before, all these reissues and blah 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 that people picked up. But in the years before that, I met this guy and he said that's amazing. Nobody cares about Cybertron. I care about Cybertron. And he was telling me stories with hanging out with Edgar Froese in Melbourne, and Klaus Schulze came around, and it's just brilliant stuff, just amazing stuff. So yeah, Cybertron debut album. To me, because I live in Australia and because I want to champion. Actually, this is the thing. I want to champion Australian music. This is a great record, and will forever be. It's just superb. And I'm going to finish with a little surprise. Well, not a surprise, but something cool and something that I love. It's my little. It's my thumbnail. If you subscribe to my channel, what do you see? You see this Henri Texier Amir. Henri Texier is a bass player, French bass, a double bass player. And this is just simply an otherworldly record. He plays double bass, very, very simple lines of double bass, really, they're not really overly complicated things. And he sort of hums wordless vocals, like it's just humming little melodies basically. And he also plays the oud, which is a sort of North African instrument. This is evidently an original press because there's no such thing as a real repress. And this is a beautiful thing because when I've owned 2 copies of this in my time. One of them now lives at Anthony Camplone's house. But this is my second copy, and it came with, like, it was a bonus inside an original single, a promo single of Le Piroguier, which is one of the great songs of the album, and the title track Amir, which is super cool, super cool. And this album is simply one of the most amazing. I'd call this spiritual jazz. I think this is what I'd call it. This spiritual jazz. It doesn't have any horns or drums or anything. It just has bass and oud. This is just a top-notch record. Amir, Henri Texier, and that's all I've got for you. If you like this list, comment below, blah blah blah. And I'm going to make a follow-up video with the rejects. I like to call it the reject. Look, I'll show you one of my rejects. I just feel like it's my year of birth. I can do whatever I want. This is what I left behind. Steve Reed, Nova. I was really thinking of taking one of those. I was like, but no. Gimme 10 is Gimme 10. Yeah, I hope you're well, and thank you for watching and listening and interacting. I wish you all the best. VC.